Today we're going to talk about how to take care of a black ghost knife. We get this one requested all the time. It's kind of a loose subject in that I don't think very many people keep them their full lives. They live a very long time, and so they're a quirky fish. I'm going to give you my experiences with them. I've grown them up to about that big. They can get larger, but in general, they're kind of a nocturnal fish, right? So they're going to be reclusive. They don't like strong lights. In fact, they have very poor vision, if at all, depending on how bright your aquarium is and things like that. They do get pretty massive if you're feeding them right. So I'm going to start from the beginning. When you're picking one out, look for one that has the double white spot on the tail, so it hasn't been getting nipped and things like that. Sometimes it can be a little, a little scrappy when there's a bunch of them in the tank. They come in small, and there's 1,000 of them in there, and they're fighting for bloodworms and things. They can get nipped on by other fish. So look for one that's going to give you both your white stripes. So that way, when you do grow this thing out, it's going to look like a great specimen, right? Primarily, the diet is going to be things like worms, small fish, and what I mean by that is like when you have one that's 14 inches, maybe that smaller neon tetra you just bought for the tank, it'll gobble up, right? So they are a community fish. So you do put them with a lot of stuff, but you don't want stuff beating on them, and you don't want stuff that fits into their mouth. So a lot of bloodworms, frozen brine shrimps, they'll eat pellets and stuff like that. Their knife shape means that they can swim forwards and backwards all the same, and they can go around decorations. And usually they appreciate a well decorated aquarium that has lots of nooks and crannies and caves and things like that, where they can kind of back up and out of the light until it's time to feed. You'll kind of watch them dart out, flutter out, grab something and dart back. That's one of their moves. If you're feeding freeze-dried bloodworms at the top, you'll watch them kind of dart up and dart back down. So feeding, not too difficult. Just treat them, like you would anything that's kind of a carnivore. That's really their diet there. And just don't give them huge pellets. That's basically it. Now, when it comes to what you keep them with, lots of community stuff. Make sure you don't have, aggressive cichlids that are attacking it, like a convict cichlid or anything like that. But also make sure you don't have too many nanofish that they're going to snack on when they grow to be bigger. Now, a lot of times people want to mix these fish with other ghost knives or other types of knives or elephant nose, stuff like that. In general, it tends to be problematic. Anything that's got kind of the electrical current, kind of the sonar system they use, when they kind of send out that little bit of pulse there, it can upset some of the other fish. There can be some fighting, and they're territorial. So in stores and wholesale facilities, sometimes you'll see a lot of them. That'll work because it can spread out the aggression, but a lot of times when you just have two, like maybe you've got a big baby whale or elephant nose, and you've got a big ghost knife, they might fight back and forth at night when you're not even watching, and you just kind of see these marks on the sides of them. They usually won't kill them right away. It's just one of those like, oh man, this guy is not doing so well. So I recommend one oddball kind of knife, baby whale, elephant nose, that type of fish. I mean, everything is doable. You can do huge aquariums and you can do anything you want, but for the most part, when people get a ghost knife, usually they've got like a 55-gallon aquarium, and think about that a little bit. If you've got a fish that's going to hit 14, 18 inches, wild, magnificent, and very adaptable to go in any direction, something like a 55 is too small long term. So you want to think about at least like a 75, 125, 180 gallon. And the good news is they'll shoot up to kind of 8-inch to 10-inch mark in the first year or so, and then after that it's like maybe a couple inches a year. So that 55 will last like a year. Upgrade to a 75, then you got a few years on you, and if you've been a good aquarist, then you'll have the time, and you'll be getting bigger, and you can buy bigger tanks. But a lot of times, they're known as a sensitive fish. I don't find them to be that sensitive. You just got to feed them really well, make sure they don't get beat up by other fish, and make sure you don't let water parameters get too bad. I mean, people always ask, is this fish more sensitive than other fish? And my answer is not really. Fish are kind of a hardy thing, but sometimes it's like, well, does our water lend itself to that? Not always is that the case. So I wouldn't let your water get way too acidic. I wouldn't go much below 6.8. I also wouldn't go much above 7.8. So in that range, as far as temperature goes, 75 to 82-ish, somewhere in there. You can go up a little bit, down a little bit. Just know that, you know, fish usually handle one stress factor, and if the temperature is that, or a fish that's being aggressive is that, when you start stacking them, so if you had a fish that was aggressive attacking the ghost knife and the temperature is wrong, that's where we're going to see a lot more illness. If you live in the United States and you enjoy the content that we produce, consider supporting us by shopping on our online website, aquariumcoop.com. We have all the essentials you need for your aquarium and a bunch of products that we've tweaked and developed and catered to what you need. So we've done all the pre-work for you, lots of reviews on there, information, videos, blogs, all of that. Back to the show. The other thing to watch out for is food actually getting to it. Because they're a little nocturnal, a little reclusive, if you have a bunch of rainbow fish in there, which aren't going to get eaten by him, but you drop bloodworms in and they gobble them all up, that starts starving out the ghost knife. So, watch out for that. Now, when it comes to hardness in the aquarium, I haven't found it to make that big of a difference. You need some minerals. I probably wouldn't drop it into liquid rock water. Typically, if you have really, really, really hard water, you also have kind of a higher pH. Not always, but I've never been in the situation where I've got really hard water and lower pH. So I don't have a lot of experience there, but in general, middle of the road. These fish are captive bred now, which is nice. They used to all be wild caught. They go for 15-20 bucks nowadays, to find a nice healthy one. If you're at a store, ask to see it eat. That's always a good sign. Like, oh, I want you to eat bloodworms. And then you can see what it's eating. You can make sure you have that on hand to make the transition easily. And then when you finally do get it home, just make sure you've got some caves to it. Now, you can use the clear caves because it doesn't know that it's in a clear cave, so you can see it all the time. You can build some nice rock caves. You can use pleco caves. Anything where there's going to be a nice overhang, it's going to send that sonar out and go, okay, I'm protected. I've got some space around me. And just make sure it's not battling like the pleco for that same cave. Have multiple caves. And also know that it's going to need to get bigger caves. So, if you put one in this big around and it's only this long, well, when that ghost knife's this long, it doesn't feel safe anymore. So you have to keep getting bigger and bigger caves. You can kind of work them into the substrate if you want. But it's a great thing because it's a showpiece fish. Everyone thinks it's cool looking when it comes out to feed, and especially if you feed it to eat off the top of the water, that freeze-dried bloodworms, small floating pellets, sometimes flake food. Any of that stuff, flake food, is kind of not, I would say, for the amount of times it has to come up, it might not be enough food. Where like a bloodworm, that's a lot of nutrition, where a piece of flake, it's going to have to come up and out a lot, and if you got a lot of other fish, you'll have to compete. So I just wanted to specify, it will probably eat a little bit of flake food, but it might not be enough to really build that body. Now, there's lots of types of knife fish. This is just the black ghost knife. It's a long-term fish, though. I want to stress that you might have tetras come and go. They die, guppies, that kind of stuff. But this fish is going to be around for a long time. Another little side tangent there. If you do get live bears like guppies or platies or something like that, the babies from them, they'll often hunt them down, which is a good protein source for them. Just make sure your water parameters are all matching up. Last but not least, enjoy it. That's what it's there for. I think it's a very fun pet. Build the aquarium around it a little bit. Don't just, buy it willy-nilly going, oh, let's see how it does. They are, you got to really make sure they get fed. So good luck. Enjoy that black ghost knife, and we'll see you in the next one.